Hey guys, welcome to Horology Biology. Now, many months ago, a guy that I know reached out to me and said, HB man, I got this really strange watch, but it barely runs, the winding stem pops out, doesn't even have the original crown on it, and as you can see, the case is completely mashed and missing its original super fresh leather. I need this fully restoring and brought back to its former glory because I've got the original box and papers and even the original receipt that the first owner got when they bought it. Can you hook me up? Now, you know that yours truly could not resist Super Fresh Challenge. And of course, I'm going to do everything I can in my power to bring this watch back to its original looking condition. Now, if you saw this watch sitting on a desk, you'd probably mistake it for a small leather case, a pillbox, maybe a cigarette holder, or even something to stash your weed in. Now, what you wouldn't guess is that it's actually a watch, and one with more design history behind it than almost any other Movado of its era. This, of course, is the Movado Ermetoscope, and the story starts back in the mid-1920s. Now, the case design didn't actually start at Movado. It came from a Swiss case-making firm who filed the original patent in Germany back in 1926. And further patents followed in England and Switzerland the year after. Now, the name Ermeto comes from the Greek for hermetic, which means sealed. And that's exactly what this case was designed to do. Two rectangular styled halves slide past each other like curtains, drawing apart to reveal the dial, then closing again to seal the movement away from dust, moisture, and shocks. All those nasty things we don't like. No, we don't. Movado, of course, picked up the design and put it into production. Then in 1927, the brother of Movado's founder patented something genuinely new. He worked out that the act of sliding the case open and closed could actually be used to wind the movement itself. Now, that's pretty super fresh if you think about it. Two racks built into the sliding halves engaged a pinion on the winding stem, and every cycle turned the crown automatically. Movado called it the non-stop system. A single open and close gave you roughly 4 hours of running time, a few cycles a day. And it ran indefinitely. They patented it in Switzerland and the United States the same year, then France and the UK the year after. So as you can guess, this is a pretty cool watch to work on. So it's the first time that I've actually worked on one of these Ermeto watches, and I was a little bit stumped in regards to the case. Not gonna lie, it's true. I did not know how to remove it. I even had to Google it. After around 20 minutes of completely failing and fumbling. And the thing is that when you actually work out how to remove the cases from like the inside, the watch itself, it's one of those things that you're never going to forget. Literally, all you need to do is you open it up and you press with your fingers a little bit hard on the inside of the back of the brass case, and then they will basically slide out. It's like the brass is they've cut it like it's got like a spring tension to it with a little clasp on it, so it grips the inside of the case. So yeah, like I said, once you know how to do it, it's really straightforward. I'm certainly never going to forget, put it that way. So yeah, after messing around for quite some time, I finally actually worked out how to get into one of these things because never done it before. I, of course, have removed the movement from the case, and I'm basically just going through the full strip down of this watch. Removed the balance. I've also removed all of the date mechanism from the dial side, fully stripped that down, and we're already well on our way. As you can see, I'm also pegging my jewels as I go. It's not something that I've been doing at the end anymore. I used to do it like that, but basically now I'm just, anything with a jewel on it, I'm just pegging it as I go, and then I don't have to do this at the end, if that makes sense. I just find it a lot easier. Now this bit I really did like. There's actually a small locking screw on the ratchet wheel, which basically keeps that screw, the main screw, from unscrewing. And I think that's pretty ingenious because there has been many a times where watches have ended up coming in where the screw for the ratchet wheel has come away and it's worked its way out basically over time. I've not seen one like that before, with an additional locking screw holding the main screw in place. And I think that's pretty ingenious design. I really, really like that. I think it's a really, really nice touch. So also removing the crown wheel, and it did have a reverse threading screw. Now, as you can see, Movado clearly did not mark that, but the rule of thumb is if it is a centered screw on the crown wheel, it's going to be a reverse threaded screw. So removing the train of wheels bridge, and I'm checking the jewels underneath, and I'm also cleaning them as well. The reason you do this, guys, is it just takes away strain on your cleaning machine. If you can get away as much grease and grime as possible before you've even put it through your cleaning machine, you're going to save a fortune on cleaning fluid. It's going to last a lot longer. So do your pre-cleaning prior to your main cleaning. Now, one of the issues that I ran into with this watch was, of course, the crown. The crown that came on the watch is not correct for it, and it actually sits too high on the case. So when you close in those sliding cases, it hits the crown, and of course it doesn't work. You know, you can't close it. So it needs the correct crown, which is so hard to get and is wafer thin. I looked absolutely everywhere, and one of the only places that I actually found that advertised it but showed it like not available, out of stock, was Passion Chrono. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to just take a chance, and I emailed the guy. I've bought from them many times, and I just said, you know what, I'm going to have one. I know it says you're out of stock. Anyway, a couple of days later, he emailed me back. He said, oh yeah, I've actually found one. Yeah, I'll update the site. Unbelievable luck, guys, because without that crown, you're screwed. Like, nothing else is going to work. It is such a special crown. So big shout out to Passion Chrono for sorting me out with the crown, because of course, this would be a very different video without it.
Super fresh, super nice, HB goodness.
So the watch has been fully stripped down. It's been pre-cleaned. It's been deep cleaned. And of course, now we're going to fully rebuild this so that we can complete the job. First thing, obviously, I'm going to do is oil the capstones. You have two capstones. You got one on the dial side and one on the train side. And I'm adding a little bit of fix-a-drop to the capstones. It basically means that the lubricant sits in one place and it's not going to run all over the place when you're adding that 90-10 to it. Simply just add a small little drop, and then you stick the underside of the capstone to it, and it will just glob together, which is just absolutely perfect. And you're looking for that nice little bubble of oil so that the pinion, the pinion from the staff, sits really nice and fluid inside it, and it's really lubricated and it flows really well. And you're looking for this very nice free flow from the balance, which is exactly what we get. And I'm really happy with that. I always am. Now, for the mainspring, this one was a weird one that actually weirded me out at first. It's actually an automatic mainspring in a watch which, is it an automatic? Is it a hand winder? It's technically a hand winder. There's no rotor on it, so you can't really call it an automatic, even though, of course, when we're opening and closing the case, that's adding wind to the watch. And logically, when you actually think about it, it has to have an automatic mainspring inside, because if it was a hand-wound mainspring where it would have a lock at the end on the bridle, then obviously that could happen when you're in mid-open or mid-close of the case, and it would just break the mainspring, obviously. It would just rip it off. So it's logical that you would have to have a automatic mainspring, even though there's no automatic works or rotor or anything else like that on this watch. Another cool feature that Movado used, obviously, with this. I mean, obviously, automatic watches were around at the time as well, but still, I think it's a nice touch, and it obviously makes a lot of sense in regards to the case design of this particular watch. So I've added all of the train of wheels in, delicately making sure that they all line up into their corresponding jewels, and then I can lower on the barrel bridge, making sure that that sits in place. And then I can add on the train of wheels bridge as well. And I cannot stress it enough, the way that I mentioned before, pegging your jewels is so important, because also then adding it through the cleaning machine afterwards, it's absolutely imperative that those jewels are spotless, guys. Completely 100% spotless. Quick blow off, making sure everything's engaging correctly, which it is. And then I can do a little bit of oiling. So I'm adding a little bit of 1300 to these posts for where the crown wheel is going to go, for the click spring, and of course the ratchet wheel with that really, really cool locking feature. Add it in the click and just checking that the spring is engaging, and then I can pop on the ratchet wheel. Now, interestingly, you can actually see that there's 3 additional holes there. And I'm wondering if that is, I don't know this, so maybe let me know in the comments what you guys think to it. I'm assuming that's for different strengths of mainsprings, of how taut it is. Give me another suggestion if you can think of what it is. On goes the crown wheel with the reverse threaded screw and just nipping that up in place. And then I'm adding some oil to the train, little 1300 on the center and using 9010 on the rest of the jewels. And I always say, guys, less is more when it comes to your oiling. Don't overdo it. It's okay with grease. Like sometimes I go a bit overboard with the grease because you can wipe that off really easy. But when it comes to jeweling, be precise, because it's not easy to clean it up afterwards, because it's obviously sunken and, you know, your rodico is not going to get in there that good. So you really need to be precise. Now, usually what I do is a little trick. I dip my oiler in, and then when I take the oiler out, before I add the oiler to the jewel, I will quickly just, with my finger cut, wipe one side of the oiler so the oil is removed. So I'm only using 50% of what I've actually put on. And I find that just works. Now I just do it by habit, and it actually works really well for me. So by all means, try it, see what you think. Because yeah, once you put too much in and you get like a big dollop, it's not cool. On goes the cannon pinion. Friction fit, of course. Added a little grease to it as well. The winding pinion and the sliding pinion have been added. Also adding some grease of that where the yoke is going to sit. And then I can put in the winding stem. And continuing with the motion works, of course. Now, your boy was seriously humbled on this restoration when it came to the leather case. So the guy that I know, he sent me leather in, a black crocodile leather, because that is what is originally on the invoice. It says that is crocodile noir. So it was only right that we would do it exactly the same. And your boy got completely humbled because I thought, man, it's leather, you know? I will glue it on to the case. I've never done it before, but I think it shouldn't be too difficult. Oh my God. Guys, I'm being straight up. I will never, ever do that ever again. That stuff, props to people who do that for a living, seriously. That is the most fiddliest shit I've ever had to deal with ever, to the point that it just drove me absolutely insane. I had glue stuck to my finger cuts. I had stuff everywhere. It just was not going to work. This is why this video took a long time, because we had to find a professional. Yeah, that's right. Not me. No, not me. We had to find a professional, somebody who does it for a living, somebody who gets paid for that shit. Not some half-wit that basically just thought, oh, I've never done that before. It looks easy. No, sir, it's not. That, never again. Never, ever, ever again. So I'm just adding the date wheel to the movement. Really nice condition, actually, for its age. Obviously protected from sunlight with the case being closed. Fabulous, fabulous condition. Just putting in the spring for this, and then there's a plate that lives on top and holds everything down. Now that's held in with 3 screws, and of course it has this little disc which nudges between the date disc and the spring. I added a little bit of oil to this as well, just to add some lubrication. Checked if everything works, and it changes really, really well. So I flipped the movement over, added the pallet forks and the pallet cock. And then, of course, we get to lubricate this. I'll be using 9415, just a tiny, tiny bit, guys. That's all you need. And then I will basically just rock it backwards and forwards until every single tooth of the escape wheel has got some lubrication. And of course, finally adding on the balance. And as you can see, the watch fires up, which is exactly what we want to see. You have to be careful with that hairspring as well. It is an original Breguet hairspring with an overcoil, and they are very, very, very delicate indeed. So fitting the dial to the movement, and of course checking the date mechanism is working correctly, which it is. And then I can add the hands back onto the watch. Now they're friction fit like all of the rest, and you just basically line it up to 12, make sure that your date is snapped over, and then you just add them up one by one. First, obviously the hour hand, then the minute hand, and then you'll put the second hand on top. Now, another important thing to add when adding hands is make sure you check the movement from the side so that the hands have enough clearance from each other. Absolutely important. And of course, let's check it on the Timergrapher. Now, one of the most important things that you want to do is make sure you set your correct lift angle for the caliber in question. This is the Movado 159, so it needs to have a lift angle of 43 degrees set on the Timergrapher so you get an accurate reading. And I'm really happy with the results, considering that the watch has literally just been serviced and it will take a couple of days for the oils to all settle. But the amplitude's great, the rate's good, and the trace looks, yeah, you cannot complain with that trace. More than happy with these results. So now, of course, we get to case up the watch. The movement goes in from the front, as you can see, and I will just gently lower that into the case. Slight press, and then I can add the winding stem with the new crown that you can see how wafer thin that is into the watch. And then simply button it up with the screw. Also added in the movement holder screws, which hold and lock the movement in place. Then I can offer the crystal, which I did give a quick buff in with some polywatch because the condition wasn't that bad. It had a slight little crack on it, as you could see, but considering how hard these things are to find, it's going to have to do, I'm afraid. Case back has gone on, and then I can add in the two screws which hold everything in place, including that little lever where you can actually open it up so that you can sit this, you see? You can actually sit this down on a desk, basically. Now, last but not least, of course, I've got the case, which has been fully restored by Alaska Design. Big shout out to those guys for taking care of this. Professional leather people, not half-wits like me who thought that it would be easy and I could just do it in a heartbeat. No, sir, I could not. And also, I wasn't lying when I said this video took months and months. The first part of the video, I was wearing a thick jumper. Now I'm wearing a t-shirt. I went through seasons with this watch. I'm adding some mollycut grease to these rails, which have got teeth on, as you can see, and they engage with that pinion, which is connected to the winding stem. Offering it to the case, and then I can just slide them both in together and make sure it locks in. And there you can see the crown move. You see how thin that is? Unbelievable. So like I mentioned, the original invoice dated the 29th of October, 1968 in black crocodile leather. And of course, not forgetting about the original box, which is also in fabulous condition. So there we have it, guys. The Movado Ermetoscope with the caliber 159 inside. Even though this took such a long time, it was a great watch to work on. So guys, there's 2 more videos on the screen right now. If you've got nothing else to do, grab a coffee, grab a wine, grab some juice, have an enema, whatever it is you're into, and enjoy some more super fresh, super nice HB goodness. And as always, guys, until next time.